Hello and welcome. I am so excited for today's episode. I have Michelle Denayo, right?
hmm Got it.
Is a
Got
seasoned
it.
is a seasoned strategic growth advisor and a fractional CEO with over 15 years of experience partnering with business owners and visionaries to bring their ideas to life. Michelle specializes in customized, data-driven strategies and focuses on strategic planning, scaling, and sustainable growth. Her passion lies in empowering entrepreneurs to achieve their business goals and create the lifestyle they dream of. I love that. Welcome, Michelle. I'm so excited to be having this conversation with you today.
I am super excited to be here. I know the last time we chatted, I felt like we could have chatted for like hours and spent the whole day together. So I'm
Right?
excited to be here today. We'll have to try to keep this one as short as possible.
I know, right? We'll have to put a timer on.
Yeah.
So tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and your journey to where you are today.
Yeah, so long story short, my husband and I met at work about 17 years ago. And in that time frame, we had a very, very good friend that unfortunately he got diagnosed with lymphoma and he passed away very quickly. After like 5 months, he was 29 years old, and it literally rocked our world. We were originally from upstate New York. We had these thriving careers. We were both doing really well. And we just kind of, speaking of fun, like why? What was the purpose here, And really it completely just shattered our dreams of like, what if we don't make it to retirement, right? Like, and
Right.
so we uprooted our lives 10 years ago in October, actually, because we decided like we were not going to wait for retirement. We were not going to hope that we made it here. We were going to go and live the life we wanted, which is in the sun, the fun, the beach, golf. We are warm weather human beings. We are not cold weather human beings, but yet we lived in the snow and grayest, like the snowiest
I
and
hear you.
grayest
Yep,
city
I
in the
get it.
world, in the US. And so anyways, we decided we uprooted our lives. We moved to Florida, and from there, it was kind of that's really what started my entrepreneurial journey. We came down here with no jobs, no family, no nothing, just this dream that we were going to live a better life, that we were going to live retirement and we were going to make it happen. And so, after doing a bunch of networking and trying to just figure out how to meet people, that's what kind of opened up this door to entrepreneurship. I was just meeting with people after, after coffee chat in person. And finally somebody said, "Can I pay you for your time?" And I was like, "What are you
Sure.
talking about?" Like, I thought we were just having coffee. And she was like, "Do you realize you just gave me an hour of consulting? And I have been wondering about these things and I had no idea what." I was like, wow, I didn't realize like this was, people pay for this information. Like I was just sharing. And so, anyways, that's the journey. That's kind of how it started. There's a lot more backstory, but the long and short of it is we just made it happen. And 7 years later, here I am getting paid to give advice
Nice.
and have those strategic consults.
I love that. My story isn't that different. I met a group of women about 15 years ago that were coaches. And back then, coaching was not the buzzword that it is today,
Yeah.
right? So I led teams in corporate. So I was coaching in a sense in my day-to-day job, but looked at going to coaching school and it wasn't inexpensive. And I thought that's a lot of money for maybe a part-time gig. And fast forward a few years, a very close friend passed away. And that was kind of my, how much longer do you keep putting this dream off?
hmm
And I think the week after the funeral, I called the school and said, when does the next class start? And isn't it sad that we have to wait for those um, really catastrophic
Yeah.
events in our life, right? And I love the fact that you say that you help your clients create the lifestyle they dream of. So they get to do it today and not, oh shit, something bad
So
happened. Now I should change things.
yeah, it's really one of my core values in business. And, when I'm working with clients is like, why are we doing all of this? What's the ultimate goal, right? Like, I believe that money can be a goal, but it's more about the experiences, the memories, the life, right? What are we trying to do? And my goal is always to get people working less, go enjoy, spend time with your family, make those memories, enjoy those experiences. Stop saying like, oh, someday I'm going to do this, someday. Well, someday is not promised. And that's the beautiful thing about business ownership is that you can build this around the life that you're desiring and you can create this business to actually support those dreams, those thoughts. They get to not just be thoughts, they get to be things, and even if they're small things, even if it just means that like every Saturday you go golfing, like my husband, and every Sunday we go to the beach when it's not 155 degrees out here and it's in Florida. But it's like one of those things where we don't have to wait for retirement. Yes, we still have our 9 to 5s or whatever. My husband was
Sure.
working a 9 to 5, but like on Sunday, it doesn't matter. It feels like we're living that retirement dream.
I love that. How do you help your clients balance? And maybe you don't have this. A lot of the women that I work primarily with women, but I have worked with men. But a lot of the women I work with are really busy,
Mhm.
right? They're doers. So when I say take time off or, like there's like this panic because
Mhm.
oftentimes their worth is tied to their doing.
Mhm.
So how do you run into that with your clients and how do you help them manage and balance that?
Yeah, I do. And I have one client that comes to mind. She's a, you know, self-proclaimed workaholic and loves to dive deep into her work. And one of the things, and she actually has a friend right now who is, in hospice. And I'm like, you're not going to get that time back. Like you need to, the work will be there, and you get to decide. I think one of the things that I always work with on my clients is that I love that you love to be needed and I love that you love to be available for all the things. But at the end of the day, you don't need to be, right? Like businesses run all the time not being available. You don't call your hairdresser and say, I want to come Sunday at 2 o'clock. Hairdresser, we're not working on Sundays, right? Like you and I were both
Exactly.
hairdresser in a past life.
Right.
You don't just demand when you want to do things. Like businesses run and people adapt and people make their schedules work it out. They work it out or they don't and they go find somebody whose schedule it will work. And I always try to remind people of that is like you get to make your schedule. You get to say, no, I'm sorry, I'm not working on that day. I'm not taking calls on that day. And it doesn't mean you're going to lose them. It means that you're going to set a boundary for yourself to create this said life that you tell me you're dreaming of. And the clients will fall in. But a lot of times it's really just that we've allowed people to push our boundaries so much and for so long that it feels impossible. But we are humans and we fall in all the time with a lot of people in our world. Like a lot of the businesses we do business with, you don't go to a restaurant at 11 o'clock and just tell them, like, by the way, I think you should be open right now because I'm
Right.
hungry and I'm
I'm
ready to
hungry.
eat.
You should
Like,
open up.
you don't do that, right? So like
Right.
you don't have to be that person on the receiving end either. And when you can kind of make that shift that you're right, like as a consumer, I don't expect this. So why do I feel like I have to do this all the time, as a business owner?
Do you think part of that is attached to a scarcity mindset or, or something bigger than that?
Usually, from what I see, there's either it's easier to dive into work. I have one client who it's like it's easier for me to just dive into work because it's the one thing I feel like I can control if and when life feels out of control. So there's a side of that is like there's this controlling, it feels there is also that fear. So, scarcity, lack of that lack mindset of like if I'm not available, I'm going to lose them. I'm not going to be perceived as an expert. I'm going to be perceived as lazy. A lot of it is mindset. There's always a story that we've
Right.
told ourselves of why we feel we need to be available all the time. And you can either continue to live in that story or you can create and try,
A new story.
a
And
new
part of
story.
that is self boundaries, right? I'm an EFT practitioner. And for those of you that don't know what EFT is, it's tapping is it's emotional freedom technique and it works on the subconscious. And at one point I was working because I'm the avatar of the past version of me is the avatar of my current
Right.
clients,
Yep.
right? So I love to be busy and do. But the more I have created space for myself when I'm super busy, it's almost overwhelming and I feel anxious, right? But I was working with my EFT practitioner and we were tapping through it. And for me, being busy is actually fun too. I actually enjoy work, which kind of is a rough place because fun is one of my top values, hence F and Fridays, right? But so I've had to learn how to balance that and find other things that are fun, right? Sitting at my desk working on spreadsheets doesn't necessarily mean I have to be doing that. That's fun to me,
Mhm.
but there's other things that I can find as fun as well.
Yeah,
So I
there's
realized
always
that,
something else. Yeah, there's
right.
always something else that you can find is fun. And a lot of times it's really that we forgot about it, right?
Oh,
We
100%.
forgot how to have fun in any other way. We forgot about what hobbies we used to enjoy, the things that we used to love to do. It's simply just because we've put it on the back burner for so long.
Yeah. I did a one of the previous podcast interviews was with a woman that talked about play and how important play is in adults,
Hmm.
right? And it helps with our brains. It helps with she brings it into organizations, right? So the CEO and the frontline call center person are doing, things together. But it was such a beautiful conversation because we forget to have fun because I've got to I've got to work hard, right?
Hmm.
I can only play hard if I've worked hard. And
Yeah, it, play and fun. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
yeah, no,
It's
no.
like that's one of the things in my strategic planning program that I always bring up. And it's always that moment where people go, well, I don't know. What do you mean? Like it's to me, it's a non-negotiable. It's one of those things that, like, what is something non-negotiable that you want to get on your calendar once a week, once a month? You know, what are your work hours like in your goals as you're thinking about your year ahead or as you're thinking of your strategic plan? You have got to create space for time off, whether that's you want to spend all summer off with your kids, whether or not you want to spend the month of December off because you want to catch up, right? Like plan for it. And I think that's the thing is it's hard to have fun and play and set these boundaries when you're in a state of reactivity. When you're constantly reacting, then it's like, well, I don't have time to do all of this because this is going on and this is going on. And then there is really truly no time to schedule that in. Where when you can take a more proactive approach and just schedule it in and work kind of backwards off of that. Well, I know I want to take off the whole month of July to be with the kids, or I want to go and spend every weekend, or I want to take 3-day weeks off. Well, guess what? Those 4 days prior to that, I'm taking Friday off. So you get your stuff done. Like you can
Right.
find ways to get it done. It's just a matter of being a little bit more proactive about scheduling that time in.
Yeah. And I know you like to help your clients define it their own way, right? So
Mhm.
that must look different for everyone else. So just take us through, how do you work with your clients in that respect to get a sense of what's important to them, especially if
I
they're in that scarcity mindset
and
and they're
yeah.
afraid to let go?
And they're afraid to let go. One of the things, so I have a framework that I walk everybody through, and it's called my Focus Visionary Framework, which I absolutely, the name, I love that in your intro you mentioned about bringing visionaries on because, right,
Yeah.
like visionaries, they're big picture thinkers, they're doers, they love it. They're big on all this, but like most of the time they lack focus of direction of what do I focus on. Instead, they're like dabbling in all the things. So inside of that framework, one of the things that's most important is really looking at like what's working and what's not working. Part of the that busyness is this constant state of needing to try and be and do all of the things, where what I try to focus on is let's actually look at what's working, because if it's already working in your business, we can actually double down on it, do more of it, and it frees up space. When you're busy, and the timing and all of that is a lot of times because you're doing things because you feel like you should, because somebody told you that you should, because I don't know, I saw somebody else doing it, so I thought I should, it's this
Everybody on
constant
social's
state of
doing it, so I
should.
probably
Yeah.
have to,
The
right?
shoulds, right? And it's like, okay, but is it netting you any kind of return? Are you getting anything from this? Like, even if it's joy, right? Like, even if you can say to me, well, I go to this networking event and I don't really gain a lot of clients from it, but I love the conversations. I've gained really deep relationships. Okay, great. Then there is some type of return there. But if at the end of the day you're saying, I don't know, I just go because I've been doing it for so long. Okay, but that's an hour and a half or 2 hours of your time, depending on if there's travel, right? That you could free up to do something else. So it's really more about looking at what is working. And that is always the basis of where I start is if it's working, we're going to do more of it. But so many people focus on everything that isn't working or what's new or all these things. And that is where they lose so much time because there's no information or facts that state, yeah, this is going well or not. And so it could be just a massive waste of time.
Well, and I think sometimes when people are in the day to day, they can't take a step back and look at the big picture. And I used to run operation teams and call centers. And I remember one company I started at, and one of the employees was telling me about a process. And I was like, well, why do you do it? And she's like, well, because we've always done it. And I was like, okay, but tell me why. And the
Mhm.
more question, I kept asking her questions and asking her questions. And finally she got to the point of, yeah, I don't know why we're doing it. We don't need to do this anymore. Okay, so let's start. I mean, I didn't know I was the new person, but just because you always did it doesn't mean. And I used to say to them, one more person says, because we've always done it, you're going to stop paying me $1, right? Because that
Right.
isn't a reason to still do something.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the thing is like most of the time you don't even really know why we're doing the things that we're doing. I mean, even last year I found myself I had outsourced, I had hired an operations manager and then, sales, I decided to take things in a different direction and I said, "You know what? I'm going to take everything back. I need to reconnect. I need to kind of get my business back in order or whatever." And I took back all the things and I'm thinking, "Oh my gosh, how am I going to keep up with all the things she was doing?" And then I like started looking and I was like, but why? Why are we doing all of these things? Like, what are we
Right.
gaining from all of this? But it was just one of those things where I'd gotten into this pattern of like, yep, this is the process. This is the process. This is the process. This is what we do. But we were gaining nothing from it. And none of it really needed to be done. So that's always very eye-opening for people is when you can ask them those questions and like look at like strategically what's the goal here? What are we trying to achieve by doing this? And if they don't have an answer, then the immediate is, well, then we either find an answer, we figure out
Right.
how to make this more strategic, or it goes. And that's where this free time, this play, this is like, what else could you fill this in with? Could you go and be a chaperone at your kids' events or, like these are the things like you have these times, you just don't know how to find it.
Do you mostly work with solopreneurs or who do you typically work with?
Typically party of one. I call it a party of one. I'm a huge fan of the whole party of one. I think having a small team, less than 10 people. So if whether those are employees or contractors, I think there is a lot of power in that. I think for so many, and again, the shoulds is that we need to scale. In order to scale, we need to hire all these team members and we need to have all these, employees and we need to grow and take on all of this. I personally, this is where I say like everybody's definition of success. I have no desire to manage a team of people. To me, like that's why I got out of corporate, right? I
Right.
don't want to manage that many teams. I don't want to manage that many personalities. I don't want the drama of employees. So I will forever stay a party of one and grow my business to a place where I can remain a party of one with a few contractors here or there for things that I
Sure.
don't know how to do. So that's typically my ideal client too, is that person that really doesn't have that big desire. There are other people in this world that love to work with teams. That's not me.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's beautiful what you do because when I became an entrepreneur, that wasn't my dream. My dream was I wanted to do coaching, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there aren't a whole lot of corporate jobs. So I got laid off in 2019 and then COVID happened. So I was like, all right, I guess I'm doing this full time now. But what I missed was the collaboration, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I only knew what I knew from my view. So to have somebody else, and I mean, I'm in masterminds and I have coaches, and that's where mine is. But so what you do is you help those solopreneurs see beyond what they can't see with their own glasses. And I think that that's beautiful because we don't know what we don't know, and we just kind of keep doing the same thing because nobody told us not to.
Yeah, and a lot of times, I mean, I always try to say too, like my ideal client is still very much the technician in their business, right? They're a skilled professional that decided I'm going to take this skill and I'm going to get paid for it. But they never set out to be a business owner, right? Or
Right.
that's not their background. So they have all this shame and guilt around like, wow, I should know this as a business owner, or I should do this, or no, you wouldn't, right? Like my background is business growth, business operations, business development. That's what I went to school for. So
Right.
just because I know business growth and development, I should be a master graphic designer? No, I wouldn't. There's no reason for me to know graphic design. It's not my skill set. So if you are a graphic designer or, this highly skilled professional, it's you should there's not a reason for you to know business, right? Like if you've never been in business, you've never run a business, you wouldn't know some of these things. So like even just removing the guilt of like, wow, I feel so bad I don't know this stuff. I feel like I should. No, you don't. Why? You would have no reason to know it.
Right. Yeah. I've had that conversation with clients and also with former employees of I should know it. And I'm like, well, how? Have you ever done it before?
Right. Yeah.
Right? Like
What would
we're
make you
all
think you
new
would
at
know
some
this?
point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I know you talk about giving your clients permission to say no to the shoulds,
Mhm.
right? And like shoulds and needs are words that I hate, right? Like a want or choice, right? I talk a lot about conscious choice. And tell me a little bit about how you help them manage the I should be doing this. And especially, I think in today's age of social media, because everybody's doing everything, and then you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, if you will, right? And oh, if so and so's doing that, I should be doing that. Oh, I should be doing that. I should run a program. I should have a
Mhm.
course. I should do a chat, all the shoulds, right? So how do you
Mhm.
help them manage that?
I usually approach from the perspective of I think a lot of coaches and consultants, strategic advisors, whatever you want to whatever title, they always say like who's your ideal client? What do they need? What do they want? Right? And then create your programs based around that. And I take a slightly different approach to say like who are you? What are the skills you bring to the table and how do you best show up? And how you best show up and how you best serve is what you should be doing. So if you love to write and you can convey your messaging through writing versus speaking, then you should not be creating video content. Like because you're going to suck at it, right? And so like if you don't show up and you do not present well on video, I don't care if every guru in the world is telling you that video is all the rage. If you can't present well on video and clearly speak your point, nobody's going to resonate with it anyways. So even if it's should be doing it, if you can't do it well and it's not how you best show up and you don't enjoy it, A, you're not going to stay consistent with it. B, it's not going to be your best content. And C, it's not going to resonate, which means you're not going to get the results of it. And so there is a whole audience of people out there that also learns best by reading. So go after those clients because you show up best by writing. And so, really, kind of just looking at that is like, if this is how you best show up and this is how you best serve, then work your programs around that because there is an audience out there for everybody and there is a strategy out there for everybody, but they're not all going to work for each person. And so, looking at that, and it all really comes back down to for me, what do you want out of this and how do you best show up? I mean, people have told me for a million years that I should have a blog. I don't enjoy writing. Like it's not my thing. Now with AI, am I going to potentially take my podcast and turn it into a blog? And there's ways I can do this. But again, why? Is it what am I going to gain from this? How much work is this going to be? I don't know if it's a good idea. I don't know. And so right now it's a no. And until I feel really good about it and I feel like I have the time and the bandwidth and the energy to put into it what it deserves to see the results that I'm desiring, it's a no. And that's usually what my is that's always my take is like, do you have the time, energy, and resources to put into this said thing to get the results that you are desiring? If
I
you
love
can't
that.
answer yes to all of it, then put it on the back burner.
I'll share my own experience with something similar. For years, right? I've been full time in my business 4.5 years. And, I've had coaches, you need to do a newsletter, you need to be consistent, but it would make me want to poke my eyes out because it wasn't about the writing, because I actually enjoy writing, but it was the what am I going to write about? right? Like I
Mhm.
like to write when I'm inspired, not when I have a deadline and I have to get the newsletter out. So I started the podcast in July, and I started it because my top value is connection and fun. So this is, I like being on video, right?
Mhm. Yeah, me
One of
too.
my first Facebook lives, a coach many years ago made me do a Facebook live, and my first Facebook live was how much I fucking hated my coach. That was the topic of my Facebook live.
Mhm.
But obviously I got over that. But what I've noticed with doing the podcast now is I am taking the transcript and putting it into AI and saying, give me something, and then I have something to work with.
Work with.
Not
Yes.
that I'm taking it, but it's giving me a foundation, and then I can go, oh, here's my subject this
I can work
week.
with it.
And it
Yes.
really has made a difference. So it has given me the consistency, but I don't know what you know about human design. I'm somebody who responds. So I respond well, and I can't create from a blank canvas. And I've
Yeah.
always known that about myself, but it's only been in the last few years that I've actually been able to put it to actual words and go, oh, I just don't work this way. So give me
Exactly.
options.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I mean, from newsletters perspective, I fought it for years too. And now I do have a newsletter and I love it. And it's my favorite part of the week. And yes, there's days on Saturday I'm like, oh crap, I gotta get my newsletter out. I don't know what to, but at the end of the day, like I love it. And I love it because it's my own. And I don't follow anybody else's advice of what it should look like or what it should say or what it should include. It's like, here's the things that I felt are important and how I want to connect with my audience. And when I eliminated all of the shoulds and I took away all of the best practices and just said, here's what I'm going to do. Because I know in my heart that I like to connect as a human and I'm going to make this newsletter connect and also provide value, then I've been able to stay consistent with it for almost a year now, probably. And it's made such a massive difference. But for years, I didn't do it strictly because it was like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what my favorite tool is this week. Like, I don't want to have a section where I have to supply a tool every week or something like this, or, and so I just let it be what I want it to be. And I get great, feedback from it. I love it. It allows me to connect. And so that's really, I think that's where I always say, like, customize it because I don't care what anybody says. Every single strategy works. There is a guru out there that can prove it. There's a guru that can prove group programs work. There's a guru that can prove email programs or like email marketing is the best thing.
Right.
Another one that can prove video, right? Like there's somebody out there that can prove they all work. They're not all going to work for you.
Right. And I think it's finding the path of least resistance, right? For you. Like for
Hmm.
me, this podcast has been, I've been consistent with it, right? Because it's fun to me, right?
Hmm.
It creates everything that I enjoy. And it has allowed me to be more consistent, I want to say, in the last 2 months than I have been in the last 4 years because
Yeah.
it really brings me joy.
Yeah, because you found something that works for you, and that's
Right.
that's what it's all about.
Right. And then the newsletter fell in line with that because it's connected
Because yeah,
to it as
absolutely.
well.
Yeah.
I know one of the things that you like doing, or one of your skill sets, is helping your clients find hidden money in their business. So tell us a little bit about that, because I'm sure there are people listening going, tell me more.
Hidden money. Yeah. Hidden money to me, again, we've touched on it a little bit, but to dive deeper and be more specific about it is looking at what's working. Right. And so when I say there's like 5 areas that I believe money hides in our business is like clients, revenue, time, operations, and offers. And where with the offers, like it's always about looking at what works and stop focusing on what is not working and stop focusing on the creation because creation costs time, costs resources, usually if you have to hire somebody else. And so when I say hidden money, it's not like, oh my gosh, this money's just sitting here and I can draw out cash, right?
Right.
It's about opportunity. It's about finding new time, finding ways that like you have a said offer. Maybe you have an offer that promoted or like converted extremely well. This is always one of them is like, what offer always sold with ease? I always ask clients this, like, what offer did you have that you felt like you sold it with ease, you loved it, you could execute well on it, it was an easy sell. And if they can tell me an offer, it's like, well, why did you stop promoting it? Why did you create new offer if this one worked? And this
Right.
new offer is not selling, but you had an offer that sold. So why did you change it? Oh, well, I thought I needed more. I felt like the clients needed this. It's like, No, go back to this offer, change it a little bit, and then start selling it again. And so when something sells with ease, you have less client acquisition costs, you have less administrative costs, and obviously you can bring in more revenue because it sells with ease. So there's the hidden money. Like that's what I mean by hidden money is finding those little pockets of things inside of your business where did most of your clients come from? At like I always ask like people and say, the last 5 clients, where did they come from? That's always like anytime a client of mine says to me, like, oh, I just landed this new client. I'm like always giving them the huge congratulations, but it always followed up with, great, where did they come from?
Right.
Because that information is solid. Like, where did they come from? Go find it. And then if you can do more of that. I had a client tell me the other day, she was like, oh, I'm getting ready for this speaking engagement. She's talking so nonchalant, this speaking thing. And it's this group that I partner within. And it's like, probably where 50% of my clientele comes from or whatever. And I was like, wait a minute, wait, time out. What did you just say? And she said, well, this group, I said, you just tell me that 50% of your clients come from this group. Why are you not doing more with this group instead of trying to host all these webinars and run all these master classes? You have an audience of people that when you show up, they convert. So why are you not doing more there? That's what I mean. Like that's the hidden money is like not seeing those little opportunities that, hey, if I show up here, people buy.
Right. I love that. I love that. How do you get your clients to stop focusing on those things that they are maybe really holding on to because they've been doing it forever and really start looking at other ways of doing things?
It's all about fact versus emotion. I think in general we have to put a lot of emotion into our business, but as business owners we get so very emotionally attached to certain things and sometimes we allow our emotions to take over and when I can look at it and say, "Okay, let's point out the facts here. What are the facts that go to this? Like, are you enjoying this? No. Is this bringing you any revenue? No. Are they the right clients? No, right? Like the fact of the matter says this, and this is not getting you closer to your goal. So
Right.
why are we continuing to do this? It's really not about the emotion. It's not about, well, I put so much time into this. I had even a client as simple as like switching her CRM. She had put a ton of time and energy and money into Dubsado. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's
Yeah.
like such
Yeah.
a super convoluted CRM. And she had spent thousands working with professionals to get it all set up, but she still felt like I can't use it. Like every time I get a client, I can't get them a proposal. I'm delayed in it because I'd spent, but she was so attached to it emotionally because she felt like, oh my gosh, I've put all this time and money into it and I still don't know how to use it. And I was like, at the end of the day, if you don't know how to use it and you don't want to pay somebody full time to run it for you, you've got to switch, right? You've got to
Right.
take it as a learning lesson. You've got to look at it, chalk it up, and go, you know what? It's okay. But at the end of the day, this software is costing you money to keep it because you are losing out on jobs. You're losing out on follow up because you don't know how to use it. So, shouldn't you just cut your losses and put your time and energy into something you know how to use so that when a client says, hey, can you follow up with me? It's right there and it's easy and it's not like a big issue. So, it's sometimes it's just removing that emotion. And yes, okay, fine. You've put sweat equity in, but not everything is meant to be forever either.
Right. Right. What would you say has been one of your favorite success stories of your clients?
Oh gosh, I have quite a few quite a few success stories, but I think the one recently that's standing out is I've had a client, long-term client who's been with me for 5 years, 6 years, 7, I don't even know at this point. Um, built up a she started as like a general be all virtual assistant, honed in and got very well known and as a strategic like consultant for a specific software project management tool. So she got very, very niche down to one project management tool, grew her business to multiple 6 figures, ended up getting burnt out by it a little bit. Her husband, they was kind of had this side job. They own this sausage company. They make this sausage. And even at the beginning of the year, she was trying to run both. Like, I feel like I need to do this because I've put so much time and effort into this consulting business and I don't want to lose it. But like at the end of the day, this is what's lighting me up, the sausage company and my husband, and we want to go full time with it. And so I finally again gave her the permission to say, like, the consulting business is no longer serving you. And it served you in the time, it served you in that moment, but you and your husband are now entering into this completely new stage of life and business. And it's exciting you and you want to go in. And I said, for the next 60 days, I want to see you go all in on the sausage company. And then at the end of that 60 days, you're either going to have missed your consulting and you're going to want to go back to it, or you're going to realize like, I love it. And so that was, I think, at the very beginning of this year. And now they're in like 25 markets.
That's awesome.
They just opened up their own like in-person retail shop. They're expanding. They're doing a big grand opening, and she's all in with that. And it's just been, it's been amazing to see the success from where she was in the business that she built, but also being able to say this is no longer serving me and that's okay. And now growing another extremely successful business in a completely different, there's nothing, they don't go together at all. Right.
Right.
But, it's just more about following that, again, that passion. What's lighting you up? What's exciting you? This is a family business now. This is something they can do together and their son is involved. And so it's fun to watch. It's fun to see.
I love that. And there's a lot of trust that has to go into that, right? So I work a lot with my clients on being able to trust and surrender, right? Because we hold on to the
Mhm.
security of that. And then we have to step off this platform, off this bridge, and just hope that we get
Mhm.
caught. We it's a soft landing. So that's
Yeah.
beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
What do you do for fun?
What do I do for fun? Well, I'm obsessed with my dog.
What kind of dog?
She's a Boston Terrier.
Okay.
She'll be 2 here soon, but she is my life. And she's actually training for competition agility. So that kind of takes up a lot of time, competition obedience. So she is definitely my fun since we got her a couple years ago. But also for me, fun is entertaining. I love to have people at my house. I love to do happy hour, a nice cocktail. Sunday fun day is always a big thing at our house. We always host. I love to host a good game night. For me, it's that friendship piece. Like, I just love to be around other people, having fun, laughing, whether that's enjoying a nice meal, sitting doing absolutely nothing together.
It's probably good
Um,
we don't live near each other because we'd never get any work done.
I know, but I'm like, but I wish you did, because like we
Right?
would be so, can't we just hang out every Friday? Like, I
Right?
love Friday night. To me is like happy hour night, chill, let your hair down,
Yeah.
just enjoy and
I'm actually
just kick
playing
back.
hooky this Friday, and I have a few friends coming over, and we're just gonna hang by the pool. I was like,
That's
you know
the
what? I have no
thing.
appointments this Friday. We're gonna do it. So
That's the way to do
yeah.
it. Like, that is my idea of fun. The beach, anything, to do with that. But really it's just again about creating memories and just having that. And even now, to me, it's more about being present. I used to be the person that always had my phone out taking pictures, and everybody was like, "Oh, Michelle's going to get pictures." But I'm like, I feel like I'm not even present anymore because I'm always worried about like, "Oh, get together, let's take a picture, let's do this." And so now I don't even take pictures of it all, which in a sense I'm like, there's a side of me that wishes I did, but on the other side it's like those memories just live so much deeper in my heart because of that.
I know exact. I used to be that person, right? My camera roll on my phone is thousands,
Mhm.
and I realized by doing that I wasn't actually present in
You're
the
not present.
thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Cause you're always worried about like, what picture do I need to get next? Or
Right.
how do I capture this? And yeah, so that's my idea of fun. I love
Nice.
it.
I love that. What is something that you live by that you want to share with our listeners?
Oh, something that I live by that I want to share. Well, one of the very first mentors I ever had, um, when I started, always said never quit on a bad day. Just
Mhm.
never quit on a bad day. Um, so that's something I always live by. And then the other quote that I always live by, I actually even have it like tattooed on me. So I truly live by it, is trust in the day and believe in the future. Right. And when I saw it, I resonated so much with it. It's just like, just trust in this day, trust in this day, being present, but believe in the future. And
Right.
we don't go backwards. We only go forwards and just believe that there's something bigger and better out there.
I love that because all we really have is this moment,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the future, you know, we can't control the future, try as we might. We can't change the past. It is literally just this moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love that. I love that. So I always pull cards at the end of
Mm-hmm. I'm
every
excited.
recording, and there's 3 cards. So there's a left, a center, and a right. So I'm going to have you pick the first card.
Left.
Left. Spiritual awakening. So it's these are the Divine Masters cards.
Ooh, Kyle Gray. I love Kyle Gray.
Yeah. These are fairly new to me. I got a little obsessed on Hay House
Hey, House, did they
subscription.
have that?
I just canceled it. I was like, you do not need any more cards. So I just
Yeah.
canceled it. Um, so this is, I'm not going to pretend like I can pronounce that name.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
it's spiritual awakenings, interconnectedness, understanding the inner workings. And I would
Mm.
imagine that's exactly what you need to do in order to work with your clients.
Mm-hmm.
Then the middle one is leadership activation, time to evolve, trust in your ability to guide others.
Love
Beautiful
that.
cards. And then if you chose the right one, for those listening, miraculous encounter, divine experiences, do not be afraid of being powerful.
Nice.
I'm curious, do you, would you say that that's something that your clients struggle with? Like, do they embrace their greatness, their power, or do they step away from that?
I think for many of us, my clients, myself included, this is something I'm really working through right now is that trusting in yourself, trusting in your expertise, trusting in the value that you bring to others, and understanding that just because it comes easy to you doesn't mean that it comes easy to other people. And it doesn't mean that it's not of high value. I think that's what it is so many people, we take our skills for granted. And it's this I'm working on it so much just in my own self is like that maybe my skills are a little different than other coaches or how I present. But like, I finally had a coach say to me too recently, because I was talking, I was like, why is this so difficult for me to come up with this stuff? I said, I'm so black and white. In my world, everything is black and white. And she goes, because that's what makes you unique. That's what makes you such a superpower to your clients is it's black or white, right? Yes or no, in or out. And that's a superpower. And when she said that, I was like, you know what? You're right. I am going to start valuing that to a deeper place and that I think is really the struggle is stepping in and owning that even though it might look different than somebody else in your world and how they do it, your unique superpower is your superpower and stepping into it and owning that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And even when others maybe challenge your superpower, still owning it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And not letting that comparisonitis and going, oh, well, wow, I didn't create that like really crazy spreadsheet. Mine's just pretty basic. It doesn't matter if the information that pumps out is the same, it's
Right.
okay. You know what I mean? Like I think that's really what you got to kind of remember is like there's always going to be somebody that does it different.
Yeah. And nobody's going to do it as you do it,
Right.
right? As you bring
Exactly.
it. So it's fascinating when we compare ourselves to others. And then I've had people say, oh my God, I love when you do blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, so I'm also the person that people are being comparing. I'm
They're
like,
comparing it to. I
right,
know
this is
somebody just said that to
fascinating.
me. She was like, "Man, you're killing it and you're doing this and I love it." And I was like, "Really? Cuz I don't feel like I'm killing it at all right now." Like
Right. It's just, yeah, I love the perspective. So,
Yeah.
Michelle, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank
And for
you.
those of you listening, thank you for being on this journey with me. Remember that transformation begins from within, and take a moment every day to connect with your higher self and trust that the universe is guiding you towards your highest goal. And if you found today's episode valuable, please subscribe, download, leave a review, and share this podcast with whoever might benefit from this message. Stay connected to our community. Our links will be in the show notes. Michelle's offering her newsletter, so the link to that will be in the show notes as well. You can visit both of our websites will be there. All the information will be in there.
Awesome.
Michelle, thank you so much. This has been such a fun conversation. I know we could have continued talking forever.
I know. One of these days I'm coming up to Boston. We're
I
going to have a
know. Or
conversation
wait,
in
I'll come to
person.
Florida and wait,
Okay,
I'll be
that yeah,
there.
that yes,
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah. So until next time, continue to shine your light and walk in peace and love. I'm Francine Tirrell, and this has been Effin' Fridays with Francine. Thank you.